Hi, my name is Henry Abraham and I'm your big brother in recovery, welcoming you back to another educational video on how to achieve sustainable sobriety. If you're new to this channel, we ask that you subscribe and leave a like at the bottom, and please, by all means, leave a comment and share with your friends. On this channel, we attempt to use the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and not our own opinion, because opinions are like garbage cans. Everybody has one, and you're entitled to it. But one thing's for certain, we can't go wrong if we stay focused on what our sponsors said in the past. And for those of you who are already subscribed, please continue to leave comments and share these videos. And thank you for doing it with your friends in recovery, because I believe that addiction is 100% treatable. I didn't say curable, I said treatable, meaning it is 100% eradicated, and it's done by one way: recovery. So I got something meaningful for you today, because our book says in order to hold an alcoholic or an addict's intention, the message must have depth and weight. And I believe that's why you're back to look at this video today, because we've been told that our messages have depth and weight and they're not drug-a-log. So we won't waste your time with a lot of how much you dropped on the floor or how many bars you're drunk at, but we will try to give you some sort of substance. So with that being said, I hope you got a lot out of the one goal, SMART goal to set for 2020, which is to recover and to do that at once. If you have bought off into that, or you're sold on that idea, like we read the last two guys on the last video, they were sold on the idea, and or they simply accepted the plan outlined in the book. I want to pick up from there, because today I want to talk about something. And what I want to talk about, and I'll tell you what the title is. Today's title is Sobriety is Free, but Recovery Cost. There are a lot of people who want what those of us who have recovered have, but aren't willing to do what those of us who have recovered have done in order to get what we have. What do we have? Let's first identify what we have. We have sanity, because the word sobriety, if you're in another fellowship, serene, serenity, both mean the same thing: sanity. In other words, to go from insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, to sanity. Now I have recovered. I told you about the story once where I sponsored a CPD officer who had got wounded in the line of duty, but he fully recovered from his gunshot wound. However, he is not bulletproof. So I need to give you some clarity. Even though I have recovered, I am not exempt from alcoholism, but my mind has been renewed, and so has my body. I have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. What have I recovered? My relationship. No relationship, no recovery. So with that being said, I want to share a few things with you, because there are so many things being said out there right now, and I'm going to give you a disclaimer. I am not here to tell you what you need to do, but what I am going to do is read to you what our forefathers told us to do. So you can't get mad at me for reading back to you what the book tells us all to do. I want to start on page 164. Second paragraph. Here's my disclaimer. Our book is meant to be suggested only. Why? If you want to do what the book says, you take the steps. We realize we know only a little. I told you, after 39 years of being clean and sober, the more I learn, the less I find out I know. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Sounds like more to be revealed. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. Sound like step 10 and 11. The answer will come. Here's the contingency. If your own house is in order. In other words, I can't tell you about how to recover if I haven't recovered. But obviously, you can't transmit something you haven't got. The 12 and 12 calls those people two-steppers. They do the first step and the 12th, and they don't do anything else. See to it that your relationship with him is right. In other words, like I told you, no relationship, no recovery. And great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. As I said, our topic today is sobriety is free because it's a gift from God. But recovery costs. Why? Faith without works is dead. There are many people out there that mean well, but they could be misinformed simply because they don't read the book. As I told you in previous videos, the book is called Alcoholics Anonymous, and so is the fellowship. But some of the fellowship, not all, some have stopped reading the book. That's the problem. I want to show you something that's interesting. If you look and you read and you study your big book, you'll find the word recovered is in your big book 16 times. In the 12 and 12, it's in there 4 times. So that's a total of 20 times they use that word recovered. But what's interesting and noteworthy for you to notice, the word recovering, ing, is in the big book 2 times. One on page 104 and the second one on page 122. You can go to my video I did entitled Recovered versus Recovering. But I want to read you a definition for both words. To recover simply means to bring back to a normal condition. I'd like to show you that in the big book. If you recall, in our foreword to the first edition, it says, we of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Second sentence, to show other alcoholics precisely or exactly how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book. Third sentence, for them, meaning those who suffer from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. We hope these pages will prove so convincing that no further authentication or proof will be necessary. So that tells me in order for me to find out exactly what the more than 100 men and women did, which was recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, I gotta read the book. But I can read all day, but guess what? These are not the steps we read and discussed. These are the steps that we took. When do we take them? At once. Let me show you something. The word recovery, as I said, simply means to bring back to a normal condition. Why? What are you attempting to recover? Your relationship. Would you kindly go with me to page 20? They said we recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. I just want to give you something really to take a look at. First paragraph on page 20. You may already have asked yourself, why is it that all of us become so very ill from drinking? Simply because it's a mental obsession, physical craving, and it equals an allergic reaction. Doubtless you are curious to discover how and why. We did a video on how and why. In the face of expert opinion to the contrary, we have recovered from a hopeless condition of mind and body. There it is. If you are an alcoholic who wants to get over it, you may already be asking, what do I have to do? Simple, isn't it? It is the purpose of this book to answer such questions specifically. We should tell you what we have done. Before going into a detailed discussion, it may be well to summarize some points as we see them. So right there it tells us that we recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, like they said in the foreword to the first edition. The word recovering is simply the process that one has to undergo in order to recover. So that tells me there are two types of people in recovery. One, the person that's recovering. Two, those of us who have recovered. You can be recovered in 6 months, and you could still be recovering after 16 years. And that depends on you. Let's go to how it works on page 59. Let me show you what I mean. You remember today's topic? Sobriety is free, but recovery costs. How it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. In other words, rarely have we seen a person relapse, because this program is a program of entire abstinence. Now, this is going to tell us who does relapse and who doesn't relapse. Those who do not recover, told you, are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. I want to make a statement right here. Recovery is hard. It is, because if it wasn't, everybody would. That's why they say rarely have we seen. But guess what? It should not be complicated. However, it is a simple program for complicated people. And I think the complications come from people not reading the book and getting a sponsor and taking the steps at once so they can experience it. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves, not with me, but with yourself. They are such unfortunate. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They're not born that way. They just appear to have been. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Now here are their chances, less than average. There are those too who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders. Sound like MESA, dual diagnosis, but guess what? No excuse. But many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. You know, I mentioned the word excuses, and I want to give you an Abrahamism about excuses. Excuses are simply the nails we use to build our house of failure. Page 23 illustrates that. You know, you can come up with excuses all day long, and I'll give you an idea of some of them. Well, I'm going to take my time. Who are you to tell me to rush and do these steps? I'm a easy does it. Easy does it doesn't mean physically slow. It means simply to take the confusion out of what you're doing. Let's look at a great excuse. The big book talks about it on page 23. It says, first paragraph, these observations would be academic and pointless if our friend never took the first drink, thereby setting the terrible cycle in motion. You know, that vicious cycle, the mental obsession, physical craving equals the allergic reaction. Therefore, the main problem of the alcoholic centers in the mind rather than in his body, because we recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Why? Your mind is killing your body, and your body is killing your mind. That's why on page 42, the second paragraph, first sentence says that they outline the spiritual answer and program of action, which 100 of them had followed successfully, because spiritual is the answer. But let's stay focused on this on page 23. If you ask him why he started, talking about excuses, on that last bender, the chances are he will offer you any one of 100 alibis. Sometimes these excuses have a certain plausibility, but none of them really make sense in the light of the havoc an alcoholic drinking bout creates. Come up with a whole lot of excuses. They sound like the philosophy of a man who's having a headache beats himself on the head with a hammer so he can't feel the ache. If you draw his fallacious reasoning to the attention of an alcoholic, he will laugh it off or become irritated and refuse to talk, because he doesn't want to face his reality. Talking about excuses being the nails that we use to build our house of failure. Are you giving yourself an excuse in 2020 for not taking the steps and recovering immediately? Let's keep reading about excuses. Once in a while, he may tell the truth. And the truth, strange to say, is usually that he has no more idea why he took that first drink than you have. Some drinkers have excuses with which they are satisfied part of the time, but in their hearts, they really don't know why they do it. Once this malady or illness has a real hold, they are a baffled lot, surprised, alarmed. There is the obsession that somehow, someday, they will beat the game, but they often suspect they are down for the count. We can come up with all kinds of excuses, but as I first stated, sobriety is free but recovery costs. Faith without works, that's a verb, plural, not work, but works. It's dead. You do nothing, you get nothing. And it's a shame to see so many people in recovery resting on their laurels, not wanting to do anything. And I'm not coming across today like I'm an expert or I'm a spokesman for Alcoholics Anonymous, but I have recovered. I am a sober person offering newcomer suggestions on recovery. And what I'm telling you is that you can recover because so many people are dying. Another Abrahamism. Can't got killed and couldn't got whooped until he could. In other words, stop coming up with excuses that you can't recover and spreading those things to newcomers, letting them know they don't recover. In other words, either you are spreading the illness of addiction or you are spreading the hope of recovery. And I'm here to tell anybody that's listening to me now under the sound of my voice, we do recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body and go on to live gracious and right-standing lives and do everything that we were called to do. I think why so many people who haven't done the steps and haven't recovered, they appear to be restless, irritable, and discontent. But those of us who have recovered are happy, joyous, and free. And it's a sad reality because there's so many people dying from a 100% treatable illness. And as I stated, the only solution to addiction is recovery. People have a tendency to regret the past, be ashamed of the present. Therefore, they ruin their future because they don't want to do what the literature says do, and that is take the steps at once with a sponsor, have a spiritual awakening, and go and do some service work. If you think about this, and I'm going to share another thing for you. If you really want to do something, you'll find a way. But on the other hand, if you don't, you'll find an excuse. You remember we talked about those excuses? What's your excuse going to be from not moving forward and recovering? You've been sitting around in the fellowship long enough, some for 6, 7, 10, 15. I even know people with 20 years still don't have a sponsor, still haven't done a fourth step. Watch this. Go to page 29, since you're already on 23. If you really want to find a way to do something, like I said, you will. But then again, if you don't, you'll find an excuse not to do something. Well, let's look at something. The book tells us on page 29, further on, clear-cut, simple, directions are given showing how we recovered. First 164 pages. These are followed by 42 personal experiences or stories. So there's really no excuse you can give other than you don't want to do something. You remember? Can't got killed and couldn't got whooped until he could. So let's look at something. I want to bring you home now because I don't want to take too much of your time, but I am a little bit concerned right now. And I don't want to come across as harsh, but I do want to come across as one who has recovered, letting you know, why don't you come on? Because guess what? Stop making excuses in 2020. You're not getting any younger. Things are not changing. And things won't change until you change. And you know you can change. You remember on Roman numeral page XX, 50% of the people who came to AA and really tried That's the key. Got sober at once and remain that way. So I just want to come across as a passionate big brother, not scolding you, but letting you know this is a program of reconciliation and not condemnation. I'm not condemning you, but I want for my brothers and sisters what I want for myself. Can't you tell that? It hurts me to see people, good people, not only fall short, but relapse and die, because guess what? People are dying at a rapid rate. Personally, I know 25 people who have died from Thanksgiving to New Year's Day. Not New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. They died, right? And it's such a tragedy. I said earlier that sobriety is free because it's a gift from God, sanity, but recovery costs. Step 2 says, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us or bring us back, prefix, to sanity. So at some point I must have been sane. Well, let's take a look at something. Let's go to page 14. 14, let's look at Bill's story. Bill said something that I found to be really, really interesting. At the top of the page, Bill even said, simple, but not easy. A price had to be paid. You remember me telling you that recovery is hard, but it shouldn't be complicated? Why? Because it should be simple. This is a simple program for complicated people. But notice what it says. Simple, but not easy. A price had to be paid. I want to tell you something about that, because in our program, there are several promises in the big book. And here's an Abrahamism. For every promise, there's a price to pay. It's the promise. If the promise is worth it, the price is easy to pay. In other words, what is the promise? The promise is found on page 83 and 84, right? You can look at it. You can look at my other videos, and we talk about the 9-step promises. But can you imagine just receiving those 10 things? But if you go to the bottom of page 84, it reiterates what I'm talking about now, why most people don't recover. Through ignorance, number 1, they don't read the literature. Number 2, they don't follow the suggestions. Number 3, they are around people who have never recovered. So how can the blind lead the blind? You can't make a withdrawal if you haven't made a deposit. Listen to what this says at the bottom of page 85 when it talks about the 83, the 9-step promises. Watch this on page 84, the last sentence. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us. Watch this. Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. What is that quickly and slowly contingent upon? How soon you buy off and accept the plan like the 2 men did outlined in the book. Now this is the point I want to get to. They will always materialize if we work for them. That's the promise I'm looking for. See, none of this will happen by osmosis, but if you work for it, it will definitely come to pass. So that proves to me that I put nothing in, I get nothing out. And people are becoming bewildered. They're becoming concerned because they feel to believe the program doesn't work. But I believe what the reason is nobody's explaining to you the simplicity of the program. That's why I do this channel. You know, in other words, to help people in recovery achieve sustainable sobriety by showing them the simplicity. As Einstein said, out of complexity, get simplicity. As we said, every promise that you have, there is a price that must be paid. But guess what? The price is easy to pay if the promise is worth it. Now, we saw the 9-step promises. The first 9 steps help you to recover. Step 10, 11, and 12 help you stay recovered. Watch this. Why do we not read the book? You know, well, I take that back. We'll read the book, but we won't apply the book. And let me tell you something about the book. It isn't what a book costs, but what it will cost you if you don't read it. So it's not about what the book costs. It's what it's going to cost you if you don't read it. I didn't start writing books until I started reading books, because guess what I found out in the forward to the fourth, well, in the doctor's opinion. I found out in the doctor's opinion, and let me get there, the first sentence in the doctor's opinion, in the first paragraph, we of Alcoholics Anonymous believe that the reader, will be interested in the medical estimate of the plan of recovery described in the book. Hardly nobody wants to read the book. So, what I want to say in closing is get back to the book, know that you can recover, go ahead on and take the steps at once with your sponsor, and guess what? Have a spiritual awakening. Stop spreading misinformation to the newcomer, telling them that they don't recover, because I told you how many times the word is in the book, and if you want to know exactly where it is, go to my video called Recovered versus Recovering. And why would Bill put on the cover page of your book, right here, the story of how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism? This is your big brother Abraham talking about how you can recover. And just know that sobriety is free, but recovery costs. You gotta work, you gotta do something. But guess what? All you gotta do is follow a few simple rules. Trust God, first 3 steps. Clean house, step 4 through 11, and help others. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Please leave comments at the bottom. And all you out there who are sending me comments, please continue to share these videos with your friends. And I look forward to empower, enlighten, and equipping you as you go forth this year in 2020 to achieve sustainable sobriety. We just don't want to be clean. We want to be sober. You know what? And I'll show you that real quick. On page 82, let me show you this real quick. Go to page 82. I'll show you something interesting. Why don't you look at the last paragraph on the page? And it says, the alcoholic is like a tornado roaring his way through the lives of others. You know, we hurt people and people hurt us. Hearts are broken, sweet relationships are dead. Affections have been uprooted. Selfish and inconsiderate habits have kept the home in turmoil. But watch this. We feel a man is unthinking when he says that sobriety is enough. Sobriety isn't the goal. The goal is to recover to where as though you don't want to be used by nobody else but God, so you can fulfill our real purpose, which is to be of maximum service to Him and to help others. If you look at the paragraph above, it talks about, you know, if we have no such complication, there's plenty we should do at home. Sometimes we hear an alcoholic say that the only thing he needs to do is keep sober. I hear it all the time. Certainly he must keep sober, for there will be no home if he doesn't. But if he is yet a long way from making good to the wife or parents whom for years he has so shockingly treated, meaning he's recovering, passing all understanding, this is the patient mothers and wives have had with alcoholics. Had this not been so, many of us would not have homes today, would perhaps be dead. I just want to thank you for listening to everything that I shared. As I forestated, leave some comments. And you know what? Make 2020 the year that you set the one smart goal to recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body with God's help by the end of the year. Well, this is your big brother Abraham telling you, keep coming back, more will be revealed. Leave comments, share the videos, and I'll talk to you soon. Love you.